I supposed to be here? Are you there? Hello?
Okay, everyone, we are here live with Wayne Scully, and we're going to do winning the tax game. What we need to know to beat the IRS. So we don't want to say beat the IRS because that sounds illegal, but we want to give you some clear tips that you might not have heard before, that you might not have used before, to help you clear up some of this debt you may have or avoid some getting some debt with the IRS because they are very unforgiving. I'm so glad to have Wayne on with us today. I'm going to read a little bit of his bio and then we're going to go straight into the questions. So give me a second, Wayne. Let's do this. Wayne is a certified public accountant, a CPA, with over 20 years of experience in accounting in the finance industry. He has worked with a diverse range of clients, including small businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. Wayne is known for his attention to detail and his ability to provide customizable solutions to meet his clients' needs. He is passionate about helping his clients achieve their financial goals and is committed to providing exceptional service. But most importantly, he
Ooh,
is good at teaching people how to avoid debt with the IRS. So welcome, Wayne. Welcome, welcome. How are you?
that was such a great introduction. I'm not even sure what I could say now. Thank you for that. Thank you, your team, for having me on.
Apparently, Wayne is from Portmore. Somebody shouted it out
Yeah,
here in the
yeah. I'm from Jamaica. Yeah,
bop,
yeah,
bop, 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 bop.
yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Leah. I
Sure,
appreciate it.
sure, sure, sure. And we decided to have this today. It's tax time, right? Everybody's getting ready.
Yeah. As a matter
Yeah,
of fact, one
taxes.
of the things I want to tell people is we're 2 days away from the 315 deadline for S corps and partnership returns. You want to file those ASAP because otherwise you're looking at stiff penalties, right?
Wow,
So,
wow. Okay, so there's 2 days
yeah,
left for is that the S corp and
315
LLCs
LLC, I don't know, S corps and partnerships.
partnerships. Okay, good.
Yep,
All right.
yep, yep.
Okay, I'm good. I
1065.
got a
Don't
little more
have
time.
one of those because then you're not ready for it. But I mean, the beauty is you can always file an extension, right? And
Okay.
get 6 months. So that's good
So
as
let's
long as
even start with that. So you have 2 days left to file
Mhm,
S corp and partnership. If you're not
mhm.
ready to file, at least file an extension.
At least that's right. That's right. You get six
Okay.
months. Yeah. Not extent. Well, those returns typically don't have a tax associated with them, but you rely on the output from those returns to prepare your individual return because they
Okay.
they kick out what's called a K1.
Okay.
That's what the owners will use to put on their individual tax returns. So
We
you
don't
kind
know
of
what
have
that
to,
is.
yeah, yeah. Well, 1040. 1040. Everyone files one of those, but
Okay.
yeah, those returns, yeah, the K1 is an output of the activities of the S Corp and the partnership returns.
Okay.
So
So we're gonna
once,
we're gonna break this up with
yeah.
business and a little bit of
Mhm.
individual, right? So let's
Yep.
start with business since we're on that, and then we'll talk about individual. We'll try to balance both because for a lot of us, we're trying to figure out how both of these things work together. So you're talking about in 2 days, there are people who need to file. What are
Yeah.
some of the consequences if they don't file? What do penalties
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah. I
And we
mean,
can
the,
talk
the
about
big,
both ends of that,
yeah,
business
yeah,
and
yeah. So
individual.
for businesses, for not filing returns, like the 315 deadline, for example, I mean, like I said before, they're looking at something like $2,500 plus in penalties for the year, and that's for each partner or member of the S corp. So that can be pretty significant, right? And
Absolutely.
although we have tools to kind of soften the blow, if you will, get those penalties reduced or eliminated, you don't want to go through that process. Why would you want to pay me to do that, right? If you could just
Right.
do it right to
Just
begin
do it
with.
right the
So,
first time.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So and then with the obviously, if you have a corp, a C corp, that's going to be later down with the
Yeah.
individual filings. Those are due April 18th this year
Okay.
because of the holiday, the federal holiday, so they extended it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure
So
if
they
you
have a little more time, but start
have
getting ready because
individual
that's
and
gonna come roll around.
right. But it's gonna come like that, right? It's gonna come
Right.
fast. So
So April 18th is for individuals,
and
for
C corp,
LLCs.
C corps. Yeah. So people say LLC. So LLC is not really a tax designation.
There you
It's more of
go.
a
There you go. There's the information.
it's at a state level. That's
Yeah.
how you get the authority to act on behalf of the corporation acts, the company acts with the liability protection,
So it's
protecting the
more about
owner's
the
funds.
liability than it has to do with
Right,
tax.
right,
Good.
right, right. Nothing to do with taxes, LLC. But now, for an LLC, you can elect to be taxed as a C corp, an S corp, even a partnership in some cases, depending on where you stand. If you're a one member LLC and you do nothing, you're called a disregarded entity, which means you
That doesn't
just
sound good.
on your individual return. Well, yeah, disregarded. So it's not bad necessarily. It's just that they don't count you any different than the owner of the company. Is not separate from the owner. So they're one and the same. When it's a sole proprietorship.
Okay. So say I
Yeah.
miss all of these deadlines and I owe a lot of money.
Yeah, well, first of all,
What is
that's
the
bad.
first thing I should
First
do?
of all, I'm sorry to hear that you owe a lot of money. That's not good.
Well, I don't owe a lot of money yet, but if I
No, to you, I
did,
bet you whoever it is,
whoever it is,
whomever, not
now
wishing
I
on
get
you.
this letter,
Right.
I owe a lot of money.
Yeah.
What are the first steps I should take?
Don't ignore the letter. That's the first thing. I tell people all the time, never ever ignore the IRS. People, they get into this like it's a mental thing, like, oh, it's IRS. Oh, they don't even open the envelope.
Yeah.
You definitely want to open
Because
the
you think
envelope.
if you don't look at it, then it's
It's
not
just gonna
real.
go away.
Yeah.
It's like, your head is in the sand. So if I ignore it, it's just gonna disappear. You don't want to do that. You definitely want to pay attention to those notices. Call the IRS back if there's a number.
Okay.
But by the way, importantly, people should not call because there are scams going on. So definitely verify that it's really IRS that's calling you.
Right. Don't answer the call the IRS is not going to call you.
Typically, no.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you have unless there's a revenue officer or a revenue agent involved, then you may have that establish that connection, that line of communication that you obviously call that person back, but they typically don't call you just off the fly like that without sending you a letter first.
Got it.
So.
Got it. So call the IRS. That's the first thing you should do if you run into a problem where you have this big bill.
Yep.
What does the IRS do? Is there a payment plan? Do they tell you to hire a tax person? What usually happens?
They're gonna break your legs if you don't send us the money.
I believe them.
No, but
certainly feels that way.
Yeah, it feels that way sometimes, right? I'm sure. And I've been through this myself, just so you know. I've had a tax debt in the past, going back 20 years. So I exactly know how it feels. So you get the letter, and I was audited, by the way, that time. Luckily for me, I beat the audit. But yeah, I mean, you call them up, you get a handle of what they're saying, what they claim that you owe, what you've done wrong, right? Depending, there are different types of notices, right? They could be auditing you. It could be a situation where you file a return and you have a debt that you haven't paid. So it just depends. But either way, you want to call them first and get someone on the phone, get clarity on the situation, and get copies of your transcripts if you don't have them, like a printout of your tax account, if you will, so you can understand what's happening. Because sometimes, hey, what if the person makes a mistake? They're only human, right? They give you misinformation. Right. You want to see it in black and white. And if it's something that's not manageable, if you can't set up a payment plan on your own, and I don't really recommend this, especially if you're over $10,000 in debt, because there's so many options, so many programs that are allowed that you're possibly eligible for. Okay. If you just, the IRS is going to try to get the most out of you, right? Of course. The most that they can get, within the period.
Do they negotiate? Like, can you say?
Yeah, you can negotiate, but that's why you can try to do it on your own. I mean, obviously, it's just like taking yourself to court as your own attorney. You can right. Do it on your own. It's just that you're not sure if you're going to get the best outcome. You know what I mean?
Got it.
Yeah.
So this is where you might want to hire someone if you.
Yeah. Even if it's not me, I mean, as great as I am now.
Right, but hire someone. Don't hire someone. Yeah.
Right.
So they're asking if there's a payment plan. So you said yes. Just to repeat that, they have different payment plans.
Yeah, they have payment plan options. They're depending on how much you owe. There are different types of options in the payment plan realm. They have a guaranteed payment plan, which is like if you owe less than $10,000, you're pretty much guaranteed to get it. As you go up, you may have to provide financial information, and it's sometimes very invasive, for lack of a better term. The financial data, they want to know everything about you, all your spending, all the money coming in, assets you own, debt you have, everything. They want to know everything in some cases. But I would say if you owe over $10,000 for sure, you don't want to go it alone.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's a scary number to owe $10,000 for the average person is not ready to just go, all right, IRS, you got me, here you go, I have the money. Right. So
most of the time, so it's spent, if you're like a commission, like if you work off commission, like a lot of realtors, that's my niche market anyway. That you get a commission check every so often. Right. You're burning for that money. Once you get it out the door. and you forget Uncle Sam, and
Yeah.
it's a problem. It's
Yeah.
very problematic. So once it's out the door, it's like now you have to hustle to
Right.
try to get it
And
back.
go find
And
it back. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
money that comes in is also eligible, subject to tax, right? So it's like you're chasing the tail. You know what I mean? So
So right, you're trying to use new money to pay off tax debt,
yeah,
but you
yeah.
have to pay taxes on that, so you don't end up.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
exactly.
hear
It's
you.
always like so the best thing to do is to try to if you can get them to hold off on collection, depending on your situation.
Right.
If you're in dire need, if you're really like just really broke and you lost your job, like really in dire straits, you might be able to
Yeah,
get
that's
them
what someone
back.
asked too. Are you able to delay the payments or ask for an extension? Is that a thing?
Yeah. There's a thing. There's something called a currently non-collectible status,
Okay.
depending on where you are financially. And again, a lot of this requires financial information about you because they just take your word for it. Hey, Iris, I have no money, so give
I'm
me a
broke,
bill.
IRS.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. They have to take
Yeah.
your word for it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to show them that you really are in that situation, you really have a dire need. You lost your job, you have
Yeah.
a death in the something major, right? That's going to really drain your resources. That would say them for them to say, hey, you know what? At
All
least
right.
from an ethics standpoint, we're going to give this person a break. Sometimes you get a break up to a year, to not pay.
Yeah.
So that status basically puts you in a suspended state. Your debt is in a suspended state where they're not looking to collect from you during that time. But believe me, as they're monitoring you, as soon as your situation changes,
Gotcha.
they're gonna come knocking.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
but
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
okay, I was
No,
saying in some cases you
what was
can,
the
depending
comment?
on where you are. There's one thing that people need to know. The IRS has a certain period of time to collect money from you. Once they assess the debt, right? So they said you file a return, or if not, maybe not. File a return, they assess you. You don't disagree with the assessment. It stays there, it festers. That becomes final,
Okay.
right? Once it becomes final, they start sending a series of notices. And at some point in time, you want to break that cycle, to correct that issue, So, um, but yeah, I mean, you definitely wanna give them a call and try to work some down. If you can't do it on your own, you should definitely hire someone to do that.
So you used the word earlier that we've all been hearing for years, and it's
Mhm.
always a very scary word for us. But I don't think most people know what it means. And you said you may get audited. What
Mhm.
briefly? Just what is an audit, and should we be scared?
Yeah, and audit basically they come and they take a look at your basically if they don't agree with something on your return. And there's mystery on how the IRS determines that. There's something called a diff score. I'm not going to go into much detail. There's certain things they look at, certain indicators that the computer spits out to say, hey, this person needs to be looked at. And they'll ask for documentation to support the numbers on your
Okay.
return. Sometimes it's like a targeted review, maybe
Okay.
one particular line item on the return. But then once they look at that, sometimes they go back 3 years. So that's why you want to be scared, because if they find something in year one, they may go back to prior years, right? And if it's fraud, then it's unlimited. They can go back as far as they want to go. So,
I bet.
sorry, go ahead.
No, sir. I bet. I bet they will.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to do anything fraudulent. I'll advise anyone no fraud. Okay, try to stay. Even if you end up owing, just do the right thing. We'll figure something out.
Pay the money.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, the audit is just like scrutinizing the details behind what you report on your tax return,
Okay.
and sometimes there are things that will trigger that. You know,
So for businesses, another thing that we always hear when it comes to taxes, and people think this
mhm.
is a way they can avoid some debt, are write-offs, right? So what does it mean to write something off, and how common is that? And is what kind of things are eligible for write-offs that businesses should know about?
You know how you see like when two cars are like driving like in like kind of like in opposite direction, one veers off course, hits the other one, then that car is total. That's a write-off. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, wait, what?
No, no. No, a write-off basically a deduction in your tax return.
Okay.
It's an offset to whatever revenues you have.
Is this
A
something
deduction.
we should bring up with our accountants? Is this something they should bring up for us?
No, it's basically your expenses in your business. That's going to be your
You're right.
write-off. Okay,
Got
is
it.
it is that item, is that particular transaction, is that can you write it off?
Yeah.
Can you put in your tax return and get a deduction for it? That's really what that is.
Okay.
So you want to have as many legitimate deductions on your tax return, or write-offs, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, you can't write off your entire car, you can't write off your entire house. I've heard
Yeah.
these things online where people are talking crazy stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
So
and
let's
be
use the
careful
house.
about what you read online, because
Exactly,
it's
exactly,
not
exactly.
necessarily by a professional. Although we're online right now,
No, well,
you
I'm a
know,
professional.
right?
You can verify me too. I'm
But
not
that's what I'm
just.
saying. Even if you hear it from Wayne or anybody, verify the information.
That's right.
To make
Verify
sure, so
information.
you don't.
Verify.
Yeah,
I was going to say, sorry,
absolutely.
verify who I am.
Yeah.
Right. So the person's an attorney, a CPA, an enrolled agent. You could verify those people.
Yes.
Right. So if someone comes and say, "Yeah, I'm a CPA," you can check them out, and it's pretty easy. So, although I'll say not all attorneys or all CPAs are made equal. Some CPAs are they
Right.
stay in a certain lane. They're not in the tax lane. So you have to also be aware of that. So you want to interview the person, basically get the right questions and answered, or ask them the right questions to get the right answer about what you're looking for in a particular scope of work that you want to get done. So yeah.
So what are some tax relief programs or options available if people are struggling to pay this money?
As I said before, the three, there are few of them, but the three main ones that are probably utilized more often than not: currently non-collectible status, right? Installment agreements, and that comes in varying varieties,
Yeah.
and in many varieties, and also the famous offer and compromise, pennies on the dollar. Yeah, but and I paid them like $1 or $10 or something, with $150,000 debt. So those are the three options. The Depending on your situation, any of those could work.
Okay.
But the currently non-collectivist, the offer and compromise program basically allows you to avoid paying a bulk of your debt. So I had a client, she owed $150,000, and I got her down to like 90,000. So those programs do exist and they do work. I mean, not to say that they work for everyone. They're not going to work for everyone.
They're just an option.
Yeah, but it's an option, and that's why you hire a professional to look at your situation, look at your specifics to see which program you fit into.
Got it. They said, can someone ask if you can repeat that first program?
The current non-collectible status, the offer and compromise, and the currently non-collectible installment agreement. I think I didn't say that one. Yeah. So current non-collectible status, installment agreement, and again, there are varieties in there. Each of those has except for CNC, that's just one program, right? No, for pretty much one option there. But there's a guarantee, there's a streamlined installment agreement, there's installment agreements for businesses that are in basically that are operating right now, people that are out of business. There's different types of installment agreements, and different types of offers and compromise. If you don't agree with the debt, there's a program for that. If you agree with the debt but you can't pay, there's a program for that as far as the offer and compromise. So again, it requires the analysis. It requires looking at your debt. It requires looking at your financial situation to see what option best fits your needs.
Okay. So what are just some basic common tips to just avoid all of this? Just avoid getting into this big tax debt. What are just some easy things that people can do to get in front of problems like this?
You could move to Dubai.
Okay.
Tax
That's
over there.
one.
There's no tax over there in Dubai.
Okay.
Just saying.
Mhm.
If anyone ever wants to move to Dubai, they can go there. No tax, no income
No
tax.
tax.
I think they have like a 5% VAT tax or something. Anyway, but seriously, what you can do is, if you're in business, keep proper records, hire a bookkeeper. I highly recommend that. A lot of people get jammed up because they don't have proper books. They don't know where the head is from the tail, right? Make sure you hire a payroll professional. If you're not going to do a payroll yourself or have it done in-house, make sure you hire an ADP or some other entity that's going to do payroll for you. If you can find someone local, that's great. As long as they're competent, hire them. So you won't have problems with payroll issues. That's a huge one. The trust fund penalty issue is a huge one. So your proper books, keep records to support what you enter into your books, right? If you use a QuickBooks or whatever you use to process those transactions, make sure you hire someone that's competent to prepare the return, right? Again, interview them. You can search on Google. You can basically, as I mentioned before, verify their credentials. Ask questions that you need to know to make you feel comfortable, right? that they're competent to do the job. For individuals, file every, and this goes for everyone actually. Keep a file of documents that pertain to your tax year, right? So that when you file, nothing is left out, right? Because sometimes you leave something out, you get a notice later on. Oh, you left out $100,000 in income. I don't know if people forget $100,000 income. It probably does happen, So you definitely want to, make sure you're doing proper record keeping. That's the main thing. And always respond to notices. As I said before, I can't underscore it enough. So yeah, I would say that those are like the key things I would say you need to do. Hire the right people. Keep good records, right? And make sure you do your books, which is a part of the record keeping anyway. But keep
So
it separate.
on the other side of that, and I find this a lot with business owners, they start their business and they want to keep good books, but they didn't, right? They did a little bit of Cash App, they did a little bit of Zelle, they took some cash, they have a little bit here, they have no central space to know their personal, aside from their business, and everything is mixed up. What do?
You have to hire a bookkeeper to clean it up for you. Someone has to clean it up for you.
Okay.
Someone should clean it up for you. Go through all your records, separate
So a
the
bookkeeper can come in. But how will the bookkeeper know what was personal, what was business?
Well,
That?
it'll have to be a collaboration between you and the bookkeeper.
Got it.
All right. So this is obviously they won't know.
Right.
Some things are obvious, right? Some things are obvious. If it's like, I don't know what, but depending on your industry, if it's, I don't know, because anything could be personal.
I hear you. Printing a heat press for a t-shirt guy.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to use that personally, right? Yeah. I guess you could be pressing your own t-shirts.
Yeah, but at least you can
buy like
right
that expensive equipment to do their own shirts, you know what I mean? So but yeah, if it's something that's obvious, they'll be able to identify it, at least ask the question.
Sure.
But I think you'd have to probably go through initially and mark things either personal or business.
Okay.
And that's why it's important to have a separate account.
Yeah.
If you have a separate bank account, right? That's for business, that you use it for business only. Yeah. If you put something on a personal, you'll probably be able to identify pretty quickly what it is, right? But you really want to separate your business life from your personal life. Yeah. Besides that, there's actually from a legal perspective, there are ramifications there too, because the courts have been known to pierce the corporate veil. If you start running your business to your personal stuff through your business or vice versa, they'll say it's like you're one and the same. Even though you have a corporation, a C corp or S corp, whatever, they're saying, you know what, you're an alter ego. You're basically the company. And so everything that you earn could potentially be an issue with respect to the IRS, right? So you definitely want to, keep everything separate. Run your business like a business. You know what I mean? Run like a business and not like a hobby. You don't want to do that. Sure. So, because if you run like a hobby, then you're going to be limited to your expenses. Are going to be limited to whatever income you get from the hobby. I said hobby.
So, what are your thoughts on the do-it-yourself websites and things like that you can file your own taxes? TurboTax. There you go.
I mean, if you're, and I've done work for TurboTax before, honestly. So I've been TurboTax alum, but I've worked for them before. But I mean, if it's a pretty basic return, I mean, you don't want to pay me like top rate to prepare that return. You have one W-2, no kids, nothing else going on. It's like, okay, you could do that. You could go there and prepare a return there. But if you have a more complex, having worked there, I've seen people with businesses, full-blown business making $1 million on TurboTax.
Wow.
And that's, to me, that's crazy. I would never.
I mean, did it work for them?
What was that?
Did it work?
No, that's what they were calling me, because what happened is the calls get to me is when people have problems. You know what I mean? So I'm like kind of troubleshooting their problems for them on TurboTax. So you prepare the return. If you have a problem, you call a CPA to get advice.
Got it.
So I think those people should not be preparing their returns online. I mean, online, through a TurboTax or something like that. But if you're making like low income, you're a kid in college or something, you can absolutely do it. You can absolutely do it there. But as you grow, as your business expands, or I would say not even business you should do there. But if you're a small business, you're pretty new, you could do it there too. I've seen people do QuickBooks on their own and mess it up, and they're a small business. So it could happen. You know what I mean? But you have to know your risk appetite. You have to know your budget. And if you're not willing to pay, then you have to pay in time, right? You have to use your own time to do it for yourself. So that's why I see about that.
Okay, all right. So as we're coming down to the end, I do want to talk a little bit about you, Wayne. and what are just some circumstances that people should reach out to you, or what service you provide, and how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so my core practice area is resolution work, which is what we're talking about now. Tax planning. So if you're a business and you are just paying you're doing it right, but you're paying a whole bunch of money in taxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times preparers are that's what they do. They prepare returns. They don't look at okay, what strategies can we implement
Mhm.
to save more, so you don't have to pay this big bill. If you're paying like a $40,000, $20,000, 30, 50,000, 60,000 or more in tax bill every year, there could be things that you are doing that you could be doing that could be saving you tons of money. Thousands of dollars. So that's one of my practice areas. And then of course the tax prep, and I do business strategy as well. I help people to come up with procedures, policies to make their business more efficient and effective.
Mhm.
But those are the areas that I focus on. So as I mentioned before, I'm not saying I won't work with other people, but my niche market is working with realtors, real estate brokers, investors, broker dealers, and that's our stuff. Those kinds of people.
Okay.
But I will work with other people. But that's my niche market.
Okay.
I offer those services to that niche or to anyone for that matter. Again, it's all about the chemistry. If we gel, and you're
Good.
not in that industry, I work with you too. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm pretty open. I'm pretty flexible like that.
Right. So we can we can reach out to Wayne to help us win the tax game
Mhm.
and beat the IRS. And
Yeah.
if someone has a question about anything you talked about today, how do they get in touch with you?
They could email me, Wayne at wscullycpa.com, WAYNE at WSCULLYCPA.com.
Hmm.
They can give me a call, 718-938-4601, 718-938-4601. I talk fast sometimes, so yeah, I'm all over in social media. They could connect with me on Facebook,
Sure.
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and I'm trying to spread my social media wings.
All
So
right.
I'm
We
kind of
know we saw it.
you know right,
Well,
yeah, I
yes,
know.
thank you,
So,
Wayne. Thank you for
yeah, yeah,
sharing.
sure.
Yes, this was
Yeah,
this was very valuable even for me.
yeah,
And as a small business owner trying to get my taxes together and trying to do it the right way and
yeah,
still run my business. So
sure.
thank you for telling me basically like hire someone. Don't get
Yeah,
overwhelmed.
yeah.
Um,
Don't get overwhelmed.
there are people who can do this for you. Hire someone just like any other service in your business.
It's like basically, let's say you spend $1,000 on your return.
Yeah,
You could be spending time doing what you love to do
right,
best and make
right.
more
And
money.
take those hours and make money somewhere
That's
else.
right. That's right.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why if you look at the cost benefit analysis, it makes sense to pass it on to someone else that is competent and has the time, and that's all they do. That's all they love doing,
Yeah.
versus trying to do it on your own. You know what I mean?
And trying to
It's
learn something new, and that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
kind of like penny wise, pound foolish is what I say. But
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's. Oh, before I go, I also I work with attorneys on estate planning strategies.
Got it.
So, people who want to transfer wealth from one generation to the next,
Sure.
I help them to kind of like gather documentation to work on a trust or will or whatever. And I'm a life insurance producer as
Mhm.
well, and I'm a realtor too and a real estate instructor. So I wear a couple of hats, but the
Right.
main thing is the tax stuff. I love it. I want to really help people in that regard. So reach out to me if you have that need. Okay. And
Got
I
it.
have a webinar coming up, and I know I talk about this on the show
Yes,
too.
and I'll post that too. When I repost this, I'll also post the webinar for people to check out.
April 1st,
So I
right?
think that this can go very very deep, right? This can
Right.
people can talk about money and finances for hours.
Sure.
So
Sure.
thank you for taking the time to plan webinars and other informational sessions
Yeah,
to just
yeah.
get information out.
Coming
And
out, coming out with a book too.
oh,
Yeah.
nice! When are you launching your book?
I'm 2/3 the way in. I have after tax season. I'll pick it up again.
Okay,
Hopefully, I can get it out by the summer. That's the goal.
okay.
So,
All right.
yeah,
So look out for Wayne's book.
podcasting. I'm like everywhere. I'm podcasting too. So, Black
Indeed.
Pros and Money Honey. That's the name of our podcast.
Okay.
Attorney. We do the podcast. We talk about anything financial. We have only female of color on the show as our guest. That's been the trend that we've had so far.
And when
So
is that?
we usually record those. We record and we release them. So we had 30 episodes done already. You
Right.
can find it on Anchor FM and on Spotify. Black Pros on Money, honey. That's the
Got
name of
it.
the podcast. Okay.
Got it. That sounds
Yeah, 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 yeah.
okay. So there's a
Yep.
lot of things we can look forward to from Wayne.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing Wayne again. We'll have him back on to answer some more questions.
Yeah.
When he's a little freer out of tax time.
Yeah. Yep. I
Yeah.
have a twin. That's why I'm able to do all these things. I have
That's the only way.
a duplicate, a clone. No, I'm just kidding. That's kidding. I try to joke around. I'm not sure if my jokes are funny, but I try.
It doesn't matter. Nice
Yeah.
to meet with you, Wayne. And we will
Listen,
talk.
man, thank you so much. I appreciate you and your team for having me. All the best, and you'll be seeing me, of course. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.